All right, so Sailor Leoka for life here. Hi. So this is a part of my new knitting series videos. This is just going over the knitting books and how I started knitting, my beginnings as a child. So how I began was when I first started, I had gotten this knitting kit. How to Knit a Puzzle Beginner's Kit. And this is how I started to begin knitting. So, it comes with yarn and knitting needles. These nice little flower knitting needles. Which later, when I got like a needle gauger thing, I learned are size 6. So size 6 needles, which is basic. I typically like, when I start with my own personal projects, I like to go for size 6, 7, or 8. I typically like to stay with size 6 needles if I'm not sure what size I want to start with. So with just any, even if it says start with this size, I like to go size 6 anyways. So like with my stuffed animals and things, I like to just go size 6 anyways, 6 or 7. So actually, that's actually a pretty great size to start with a size 6 needle. So that was actually perfect. You're just like, what? We don't know anything about knitting, so disregard anything I just said about the size of your knitting needle, which isn't the length, it's about how big your needle is, because it's a thinner needle. That's the thinness of your needle is the size. It's not the length, it's the size of the needle, how thin. It's gonna be like stick thin, like you can snap it like a twig. If it's thinner, like a 3 or 2 or 1, and it's thicker if it's like a 10, that's like size. Give you a reference about sizes, so you learn something about knitting. There you go. Anyways, this is how I started learning knitting. It comes with all the yarns and stuff on their own little things, and it comes with its own. I just ripped it. Oh no. Well, it's okay, but yeah, that's sad. I just ripped it after all these years, and I just ripped it. I haven't done that all these years, but yeah, it comes with its own diagram and everything. How to do a slip knot. I'll take a picture and add the picture and stuff, but you can look this stuff up too. I do better with videos and whatnot, and in-person tutorials. I asked my fake grandmother, because my grandmother couldn't teach me because she's in Wisconsin and I'm in Indiana. So I asked my fake grandmother, Hazel. I call her my fake grandmother because she's not related to me. She's just an old woman across the street. So I call her my fake grandmother to teach me knitting. So she actually helped me with all of this because I couldn't quite understand it. I'm an in-person learner because of my ADHD and everything. It's just the way I learn better, because that's just me. It's not always necessarily the ADHD. Anyways, I never actually did the pillow until like 2 weeks ago. And that's been 28 years. Well, I'm about to be 28. That's been like over 12 years. Since I was like 6 years old. Yeah. I finally finished the pillow, but I added my own touch to it. I decided to, out of my 750 knitting stitches, I decided to add my own little touch to it and make it more fun. I did stock knit stitch, which is super easy. I'll explain that later, how to do. It's literally knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, alternating. Purl is the reverse stitch of your normal knit stitch. Which you're not going to understand a word of, which is totally fine because I'm not teaching you knitting in this video. So other than talking about the size of your needle. But otherwise, it's like, this isn't to teach you knitting, because this is not what you're here for. Yeah, so I thought that'd look cooler with the colors on these squares. And for the plain squares, I decided to add, to do a cool, for my 750 stitches book, I found a cool with like half triangle looking with garter and purl alternating stitches, like pattern. So I did that for the other squares. So I kind of added my own little pizzazz to it, to the pillow, and finally did the pillow. I only used the amount of stuffing that they gave me instead of adding more stuffing to fill it out more. So it's like, dude, they did not give me enough stuffing. But, this is the beginners, I guess, but I put my own spin on it because I'm not a beginner anymore. I make stuffed animals now and things and dolls and whatnot. And baby hats. I'm not a beginner anymore, so I figured, I'd have a little more fun with it since I'm not showing my skill, how much I've learned since. Anyways, that was the humble beginnings. So this book was the second thing I ever got. This book was the second one I ever got, which gave me my first real set of needles and a bunch of other sets of needles that I had gotten. So this has a bunch of projects like ponchos and hats and pot holders and other things I literally never made because they're so big. And I didn't learn until later on in life that I don't like making big things. I like making small things because ADHD, I can't sit still long enough. Like, it's huge projects. I like making small things, which I learned later on, which is why I like knitting smaller things, because the gratification is sooner, because you get finished sooner, and sewing them together, rather than making big things, but this taught me purling, though, is where I learned from this book. But yeah, they provided me with the tools I needed, though. The other tools I needed to learn increasing and decreasing, and how to increase stitches and decrease stitches, and how to purl, and different methods, and some of the abbreviations, and different methods of casting on stitches. If you can see, I have like my own little things I would write into the stuff, with my sparkle pens and stuff. I would highlight things. I made my own. I don't know if you can see it. Get another set of cameras to see if you can even see. I would write my own notes onto it, and things. So this is just stuff that I would do to help me understand it better. But this is what helped me learn some of the increasing and decreasing in knitting, and some of the different methods, and helped me with some of these things. Yarn over, some of the different abbreviations, stock knit stitch, which is just where you see, the triangles, which is like one of the most basic things you'll see in the rib stitch, and all the other fun stuff. Other techniques, gauging, circular needles, all the fun. I'm not going to go through everything because you're not here to learn knitting. So, and then all of the, and then the patterns and stuff. But yeah, all the other good stuff. So basically just learning, knitting in the round with double-ended needles, all the fun, cable patterns. Oh, this is how I learned cable knitting. And I love cable knitting. It's so fun. It's so much fun. But yeah, so this is actually the book that I learned most. It came with a lot of things that I needed to like do cable knitting and stuff, like the extra needle, the special little needle I needed for it and things. So this is actually how I learned a lot of my knitting. I learned from this book. A lot of my skills I learned from this book. It came with a DVD even. I never watched the DVD, but I actually, I learned a lot from this book. So majority of my knitting skills I learned from this book, and I referred back to this book for, because it actually did really good with the pictures and explanations. I would just have to constantly be referring back to it. So this book did me very good. And it's treated me well over the years, and in turn, I've treated it very well. And I've taken my notes and things. And so I recommend this book to people. It does come with a DVD. I still have the DVD. I just never took it out. The DVD comes in the front of the book, somewhere. The DVD came in the book. Or no, the DVD came because it comes like with a package, or at least it used to. I don't know if they sell it anymore, but it used to, because it came like with a package of knitting needles and all the other extra pieces with it and everything. So like it came with a whole kit. This book was a kit in itself. It includes all these things, instructions, 18 projects, tools, extended sizes and stuff for things. It includes a DVD, and this includes inside. I probably should watch the DVD someday. But yeah, I still have the DVD. It's safe and sound. I still have it. But yes, this is a very recommended book. It has taught me a lot in my life, and I keep it for a reason, because it has taught me all my basic needs and skills that I needed for knitting. So I recommend this book for starters. For people who want to learn knitting, I do recommend this book. Anyways, so we start there, my humble beginnings. This is my second book. This book does not belong to me. Here's a funny story. Okay, where are we on our time? 12 minutes, cool. So this book has a very funny story to it. So this book was not mine. This is a library book. I'm a bit of a thief. This book was a library book. I kept renting it from our public library, and I rented it so often I practically owned it, and then I lost it. I was a child. I lost it, and I could not find it for the life of me. And then I did, but I already paid the fee, like the $22 to them to buy a new one. So when I found it again, I just kept it. So it became mine. So it is a library book that became mine because I paid the fee for losing it. And then I found it again. So this was a library book that became mine by means of losing and then refinding it. So, as a child. So, yes, this book is everything knitting book. This book taught me a lot as well. I used one of my favorite patterns, the zigzag pattern. This book taught me patterns that you can use for purl with. And because if you know purl, it opens up a whole lot to you in knitting. If you just know the reverse stitch, which is purl, it opens up a lot to you. You can do tons of things if you know purl. You don't even have to know increase and decreasing. You can know so many things. But yeah, eventually I started using magnetic bookmarks and stuff. But yeah, I used a dryer sheet. But yeah, so then I started actually writing with pencil in it once it was mine. Just a little bit, not much, pencil. But yeah, this has a lot of all of that teaching stuff and whatnot, beginners knitting stuff. But it also has patterns and stuff, and detail work and all this other good stuff in it too. Knitting in color and stuff, and it also has all these patterns and things, but it also has them in color too. I like that. I refer back to this book a lot. I do like this book. I like to refer back to it a lot for a lot of different things. I do like it a lot for these different patterns and stuff. Though a lot of these are actually in my 750 knitting stitch Bible. So I actually don't have to refer to it as much anymore, except for that zigzag pattern, especially that zigzag pattern. And some of those bobbles and hexagon ones and ones that I know I already need. Anyways, so yeah, so that one, so funny story, this is a theft, a little bit of a theft, but kind of a not, an accidental theft on my part, when I was a child. But yeah, I have a lot of bookmarkers in it though still because, you know, I've really loved this book as a kid. But yeah, it's actually not supposed to be mine. It's the library book, and it was due on December 27th of 2014. Oh wow. I was in high school. Oh shoot. I wasn't even a child at that point. I was a senior in high school. Oh shoot. Dang. I'm giving myself too much credit. I wasn't even a child at that point. Damn. Oops. Whoopsies. Well, my bad. That was this. Why, I rented it so many times. I forgot how I wasn't even that young anymore by the time. I used to rent it out so much. Anyways, yeah. So now we're moving on to my New York City years where I had bought these books. So I'm going to stop the video and make another small video because this one is getting too long. So yeah. Because now we're going on to when I really got good at knitting because I had money to purchase my own books now. So this is a part 2 video. We're going to go into a part 2 video.